I am James Ezimoha. Welcome to Africa News, where we bring you the latest updates from across the African continent. Let's dive in. Ugandan opposition leader Kizza Besigye begins hunger strike amid military court trial. Ghanaians demand accountability after 81,000 ghost names found on payroll. Protesters take shell to UK court over oil spills in Nigeria, demand compensation. Ghanaians are demanding accountability after authorities uncovered over 81,000 ghost names on the National Service Authority's payroll. President John Mahama has ordered an investigation, while the country's anti-corruption agency has declared a former finance minister wanted.
Frustration is growing in Ghana over corruption among the political elite after a probe revealed tens of thousands of fraudulent names on the state payroll. The discovery came after a headcount of legitimate payees at the National Service Authority, which oversees job placements for graduates. Meanwhile, Ghana's anti-graft agency has issued a warrant for former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta over corruption allegations, adding to public demands for action. The scandal has intensified calls for accountability, with residents urging authorities to ensure justice.
I'll be 73. I'm old. And then you chop the money, whatever you do it, I don't know. You let old people like your father ages go and sleep at finance office. You don't care. So if they grab him, whatever penalty they should give him, they should met it to him so that future children will not do that. Even his own children will think twice before doing anything. I'll be very grateful if they grab him.
Now that there has been an issue, they have issued a wanted that they want him. We are all praying that he should be arrested so that whatever necessary laws that has to be used against him, it should be used so that our monies, whatever money that he has stolen from the coffers of the government or any infiltrated contract, all the government should look into all those things.
Ghana's finance ministry has so far released 226 million cedis, $14.7 million US, to legitimate workers, but it remains unclear how much was lost to ghost names. President Mahama, who returned to power in January, has vowed to eradicate entrenched corruption in the West African nation, a major producer of oil and gold, which is emerging from its worst economic crisis in a generation.
14 South African soldiers killed in peacekeeping operations in the Democratic Republic of Congo have been brought back home for burial. Their return has reignited debate over South Africa's military role in the region as President Cyril Ramaphosa renews calls for a ceasefire.
The remains of 14 South African National Defence Forces soldiers killed in peacekeeping missions in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, were returned to South Africa and handed over to their families. At a memorial service, President Cyril Ramaphosa called for a ceasefire, while South African National Defence Forces Chief General Rudzani Mafwanya urged critics not to politicise the losses.
Our nation is in mourning for these brave souls who lost their lives in defense of our brothers and sisters in the Eastern DRC. On behalf of the people of the Republic of South Africa, I offer my profound and deepest sympathies to the families of our fallen soldiers. And South Africa reiterates its call for an immediate ceasefire and for a cessation of hostilities for all the warring parties to resume in inclusive negotiations.
As the names were read, this is not mere formality nor as a last roll call, for they will never be able to answer to any roll call that will be made. These names live forever in our hearts and in the history of our people.
The fall of Goma left South African National Defence Forces stranded, sparking concerns over mission planning. South Africa has since sent reinforcements deploying troops and military equipment as fighting in eastern DRC escalates. South Africa has around 3,000 troops in the DRC, supporting both UN peacekeepers and a regional force assisting the Congolese army against M23 rebels.
Sudan's Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan visited the Signal Corps in Bari, meeting with top military generals. His visit comes as the army makes advances in Khartoum, pushing back the rapid support. Sudan's military has regained strategic ground in Khartoum after months of being on the defensive against the paramilitary rapid support forces. Video released by the Sudan Transitional Sovereignty Council on Thursday shows Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan meeting military generals in Bari. Meanwhile, the battle for Darfur intensifies, with RSF forces seeking to secure al-Fashir. Ugandan opposition leader Kizza Besigye has reportedly begun a hunger strike while facing trial in a military court. This comes 2 weeks after the Supreme Court ruled that civilians should not be tried in military tribunals, a decision the government says it will not abide by.
Besigye, a longtime rival of President Yoweri Museveni, was arrested in Kenya last November and later charged in Uganda with treachery and illegal possession of firearms. His lawyer, Arias Lukwago, says Besigye's detention is unlawful as military court proceedings against him were nullified.
He is indisposed, that is a matter of fact, since Friday, but also as earlier communicated by the Honorable Winnie Byanyima, he had contemplated going on a hunger strike out of frustration and disgust with the impunity going on, because right now he's in illegal incarceration. He maintains the position that he's in a safe house. He's not on remand because there is no remand warrant from any court. The proceedings before the General Court Martial were terminated by the Supreme Court. They should evacuate him, take him to a facility with capacity to deal with his condition. They should quickly and immediately shift him, transfer him to any facility that can handle him outside the precincts of Luzira prison. Short of that, we may get bad news, God forbid. We may be treated as a nation to devastating news. Short of that, and that is our worry. God forbid.
Despite the Supreme Court's ruling, Uganda's government insists on trying civilians in military courts. As the legal standoff continues, Besigye's condition remains unclear, with officials disputing reports of his hunger strike.
Hundreds of protesters in Nigeria's Ogali community took to the streets demanding justice as a UK court hears a major lawsuit against Shell over oil spills. The case, brought by thousands from affected communities, highlights decades of pollution in the Niger Delta region.
Protests have erupted in Rivers State, Nigeria and London, UK, over environmental damages caused by oil spills. Protesters in Rivers State have blocked a Shell facility as legal proceedings against the oil giant began in London. The lawsuit, filed by the Ogali and Bill communities, seeks compensation for environmental damage. While Shell argues sabotage is to blame, Ogali community leader Godwin Bebe Okpabi said Shell has destroyed their way of life and must take responsibility for decades of pollution that have ruined their land, water and health.
Shell, Royal Dutch Shell, have polluted our land, destroyed our way of life, and the two basic rights that we are supposed to have, rights to live, and then right to a clean environment, they are saying we don't have it. And that's why we're here in the courts.
Rights groups say affected communities have fought for justice for decades and won't give up until they get justice.
These people have been incredibly persistent and determined. They've waited 10 years for this trial to start. They've experienced decades of accumulated contamination of their land. These people are determined to have justice. They're determined that Shell should be held accountable, that they should clean up their pollution, and that they should receive compensation.
Residents in the region blighted by pollution, conflict and corruption related to the oil and gas industry say oil spills have destroyed their crops and left them without clean drinking water.
Our crops is not coming out. We don't have drinking water mostly. The underground water is seriously affected. Even when you dug a borehole now, you can't get the good water to drink in the whole of Ogali. So right now we don't have good source of drinking water in Ogali. No crops coming out, as you can see. This village has spoiled to the land that we cannot be able to produce cassava again, which is our source of living.
A 4-week preliminary hearing will determine the scope of the legal issues to be decided at the case's full trial, to take place in late 2026. Meanwhile, Shell continues to try to sell off its onshore oil operations in Nigeria, having made billions of pounds of profit over more than 70 years, reports say.
At Noble Cape Town, Chef Nikki King is preparing a special Valentine's Day menu featuring locally sourced ingredients. The high-end Japanese Peruvian fusion restaurant, nestled in the one and only resort, is Southern Africa's only Noble location. Take a look.
In celebration of Valentine's Day, King, recently appointed as head chef, has designed a 5-course menu aimed at celebrating love with elegance and vibrant flavours. The dishes include Saldanha Bay oysters, salmon beetroot hime with caviar, and char-grilled lamb loin with truffle tosazu sauce. She emphasises teamwork in the kitchen and is committed to mentoring young local chefs in the Nobu tradition.
What I've realised when it comes to Nobu is that you can guide and motivate them into the Nobu tradition and the history and the food, but they physically need to practically work. That's how they actually learn the skill. It's not something which you can teach someone out of a book. Our Valentine's menu for 2025 was a whole team effort. All the guys, all the chefs in the kitchen came together. Everybody gave their ideas, their input, and we combined everything and we created the most beautiful little set menu for lovers. I think all the dishes it's elegant, it's simple, it's got beautiful, bright colors. It just brings out positive energy.
King's vision offers a taste of romance through expertly crafted flavours. As Valentine's Day unfolds, Nobu Cape Town's special menu offers couples a unique fine dining experience, blending global flavours with locally sourced ingredients.
That's all we have today on African News. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to A News.